for questions and discussions. I think we should take it in order of the presentation. So we start with the first presentation to Mr. Aldim, lactate metabolism and adiposity in elite athletes. So any questions or discussion, comments to that presentation? Please, the floor is yours. Well, as you all know, we always, athletes blame accumulation of lactic acid to their fatigue. But as he said during his presentation, research now show us that in fact, lactate may even reduce acidosis. And the most interesting thing is that we still find studies showing us that when you use bicarbonates to reduce the concentration of lactic acid, you increase the performance of the athletes. Now, my question to you is, does an increase in the concentration of lactate, is it important for the athletes? As you mentioned, the lactate can be used for the production of glucose, right? In the fat cells, as well as, of course, in the liver through the process of gluconeogenesis. So, to what extent can this lactate help boost performance, and to what extent can it decrease performance of athletes?
All right. Mic check. Yeah. Contrary to what you said, lactic acid does not increase performance. What happens is that when pyruvate is metabolized and converted to, as you'd say, lactic acid, this lactic acid immediately dissociates. If you study chemistry, you realize that acids dissociate in water, so it will be lactate plus hydrogen ions. It is the concentration of hydrogen ions which affect the performance there in the muscles. And lactate now, it then enters the Cori cycle. It is converted back to glucose, and then that can be used for energy. Also, there is another type of lactate dehydrogenase. You have two forms, lactate dehydrogenase H and L form. And in certain muscles, the H form can convert lactate back to pyruvate for use as energy. So that is what I was saying. But however, because of the association with lactate and the hydrogen ions which result, that retards the performance as it retards muscle function.
Right. Please, any questions? Yeah, please. I don't know if the mic.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My question to you is that you show a comparison of both the muscle and the amount of fat tissue that was in the muscle as well. And the second slide showed that there was a hypertrophy in the actual muscle and a decrease in the fat tissue as well. My question is that how does the actual lactic acid amount affect the fast and slow fibers within the muscle compared to the sport or you are actually doing?
How does
the lactic acid itself, how would it affect the both fast and slow tissue within the muscle itself?
Okay, all right. To answer that question, the lactic acid which is produced, and as was mentioned before, dissociates to hydrogen and lactate. The hydrogen ions causes a cascade of reactions which cause a burning in the muscles, and that is what reduces the muscle function. It can occur in either the fast twitch muscles or the low twitch muscles. However, in the low twitch muscles, which you would find in distance runners, marathon runners, they don't have as much lactate buildup as the fast twitch runners, such as the 100, 200 meter runners, 400 meter runners as well. And this is because during a 1500 meter race, the primary energy metabolism pathway that is used is the glycolytic pathway. The lactate pathway can only be used for a very limited amount of time. So they go back to the aerobic pathway, so they don't have much lactate buildup. If it builds up, then it just decreases during the race.
Yeah, thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you very much. Now we move on to the second presentation about hydration status. In fact, from the practical point of view, I thought that Ms. Salendi was going to show us how the color of urine should look like, right? And unfortunately, she did not. So please, any questions about hydration status and or discussion, comments to that presentation, please. Unfortunately, this microphone is not working. It's coming, it's coming, it's coming.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Stan Patino. I'm a student in sports management. I have a question relating to, you had a very interesting point with respect to swimmers increasing in weight after exercise. I presume it is in freshwater pools, or yes, chlorinated pools. You didn't say that you did not monitor any sort of feeding habits in terms of fluid intake of the swimmers. So you're not sure of why it is they gain weight.
Yes.
But maybe it could be due to osmosis.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes,
Where,
I agree.
where the fluid came in into the higher concentration of the fluid in the body. So the other part of the question is, maybe it would be interesting sort of experiment also to check in open water swimming, where the reverse happens, where possibly with the seawater, the osmosis goes in the other direction, and see whether or not there would be any loss in weight.
All right. Thank you very much for that contribution, and I would definitely take that into consideration for further study. It's a very good point. Thanks.
Yeah.
Pleasant good afternoon. Lincoln Charles, Trinity Tobago Defense Force, physical training instructor. One of the things that we're not clear about is how much fuel, whether we say water or good water, should athletes intake, because average normal person, or we should say controlled person, has a certain requirement of intake of water per day as opposed to an athlete. So just shed some light on that, please.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Actually, there is an equation where you can look at the particular sport of the athlete. You also take into consideration the weight of the athlete and the amount of time that they train for. So based on that equation, you can actually calculate the amount of water that the athlete would need to supplement. So it's just a matter of nutritional knowledge and having someone to provide you with that equation for your specific training activities and calculating that for each athlete.
If I may contribute to that, the recommendation is that after your exercise, if you notice that you have lost 1 kilogram, we always ask you to take 1 or 1.5 kilograms of water, so 500 grams more than you have lost in order to rehydrate, right? So it's quite important. So any other questions? Yeah?
Hi again. My question is that can the type of fluid that you intake affect the weight loss itself? For instance, if you're comparing water compared to maybe a sports drink like Gatorade or coconut water, can that affect the rate of weight loss?
Definitely. Initially, we were looking at the type of fluid supplementation that the athletes took in before their physical activity. One of the hindrances was we did not take the time that the athletes took in those supplements, but we did separate hydrating fluids as opposed to fluids that may not be as hydrating as others. So that definitely would contribute to fluctuating hydration status, the type of fluid that they intake.
Hi, good day. Clisha Delpesh, UTD Sports Management Exercise student. For the hydration question, my question is, did you take into consideration the type of liquid, type of fluids that they were taking in during the day? Was it that they were only drinking water? Was it that they were drinking coconut water, energy drinks throughout the day before you do the experiment? Or was it that you only consider that everybody was drinking water throughout the day?
We did administer a questionnaire, and the questionnaire did allow for the athletes to tick the amount and the type of fluid that they take in. And as I answered before, the problem with processing the data and making that correlation between the type of fluid that they took in and the hydration status was that we did not take into consideration the time that they took in that fluid. So that's why it couldn't be reflected in the results, but we did indeed look at that in the questionnaire, and in further revision of the research, we would definitely look at the time so that that correlation can be done to improve the study.
Well, if there are no more questions to that, I may just want to add a sentence to that presentation. Of course, sports drinks rehydrate better than water and better than other fluids. But the problem is that you have to be careful with some of the sports drinks because they may be brominated, right? They contain brominated vegetable oil. So, and as you know, bromine is a fire retardant. You find it in your carpets there, here. And of course, that is cancerogenous. So be careful. If it contains brominated vegetable oil, BVO, try to avoid it. Now we go to the next presentation. So any questions to Ms. Beckford, Nutritional Knowledge and Attitudes of Adolescent Swimmers in Trinidad and Tobago? No questions? Comments? Well, in that case, we have to move to the last presentation then about monitoring training fatigue. So please, you're welcome to ask questions and to discuss.
Good afternoon. Creed Sports Company. Research in sports studies and by extension and sports science is what should be used to help athletes. The coaches in our country may not be aware of the orthostatic heart rate monitor. Is there any simple method that our coaches or any simpler devices that they may be able to use to help them acquire information to assist them in their coaching?
Yeah. All right. Thank you for the question, Mr. Creed. Okay, as I indicated before, everything I try to do, try to make it practical. Now, the orthostatic heart rate test, right, is using the polar wristwatch, which could run between $500 to probably $1,000 TT, right? It's not practical in this setting for junior youth athletes. But if we look at the study, the resting heart rate levels, that does not have to be done using a wrist unit. It can be done, I use it in my training session, for instance. If I want to know the resting heart rate levels of my athlete, I let them lie. If they're coming to training, they can lie down for approximately probably 10 to 15 minutes. I take, either take their pulse, their heart rate, I take it for 1 minute, and I write down the heart rate value. And I use it later on, sometime between the mid-season, I do it again to determine if there was an increase or decrease, as the case may be. And that helps me in determining the training state of the athlete across time. So yeah, there are the simpler methods that can be used by the coaches on a day-to-day basis, and athletes, yeah.